Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Ryden. There's an old movie called Regarding Henry in which a high powered, arrogant, self absorbed lawyer is injured and suffers brain damage. As a result, he undergoes a drastic change in his personality, which in the end benefits not only him, but everyone around him. Their lives are forever changed for the good. Well, that movie could have been made about our guest today, but instead of a head trauma, Robert Spekman had his life interrupted Parkinson's disease. And he writes about the resulting effects in My Journey with Parkinson's Disease, a story of hope and personal transformation. Welcome, Robert, from Charlottesville, Virginia. I see a big Cavs fan, obviously.
Yeah,
Well, welcome. Glad to have you with us today.
happy to be here.
I think the title pretty much says it all. You were transformed. What was your life like before Parkinson's disease reared its ugly head?
I was arrogant. I was self-absorbed. I was watching after me first and then my wife and kids. And I was a real son of a bitch, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes it takes a drastic event in your life to turn things around. Now, you've seen the conversations in movies with the doctor when they get the diagnosis. What was it actually like in the room when you were handed the diagnosis of Parkinson's?
It was like I was hit in the face very, very hard. I didn't know what the disease was. It's a visual diagnosis. They had me walk up and down the hall, and when you have the illness, you don't swing your arms when you walk, and there's various other subtleties with the gait, and I was having them all.
Mm,
And when the young physician who I had for maybe 15 years
mm.
and I have some bad news. I said, what? This is only a visual exam, no MRI, no lab work, no nothing. I asked to see the department head who was available. He said, walk for me. I walked for him. I said, yep, she's right. You've got Parkinson's.
Oh, man.
And I left the hospital, went home. An hour and a half, I was on there for a week and a half of research with a colleague.
Mm,
And I never said anything to him about it. So the initial diagnosis just like winded me.
yeah.
I didn't know anything about the illness, but I became an expert very, very fast.
Gee, I bet. A lot of people, I would guess that would be the first thing they would do is start researching it. And what
Yeah.
was your first action step? Did you ever think to yourself, gosh, I've got to do something to fight against this? What did you do?
Well, I was angry.
Yeah.
I went through the stages of mourning that the famous author
Yeah. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Ross
Yeah.
wrote
Mm,
about. I went through each one of those stages, and I had no notion about how long I had. And every time I'd ask the docs, they wouldn't let me know. They'd say, we can't tell you because we don't know.
yeah.
Well, I've had the illness for since 1995.
No kidding. 31 years?
Yes,
Wow.
which is a long time.
Yeah. You were a very young man then when you got diagnosed.
I was a little bit older than Michael Fox was.
Uh-huh.
It's early onset if you're under, and I was under 50 at the time.
Yeah. Well, now, this is not just a book about a disease, but it's a book about hope. How did hope arise out of this diagnosis, and how did that change your life for the good?
Well, I initially if there was somebody else who lived inside me who had the illness. It wasn't me who had it, and I
Yeah.
tried like hell to get rid of that individual.
Yeah.
And I was involved in an executive experience with the department heads of the medical school, many of whom I knew, many of whom had seen me naked. And here I was lecturing them. And one of the participants asked the head medical officer who organized this, "What's wrong with Spekman? He seems to shake."
Uh-huh.
And that was it. I said, I'm not, I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight this. And that's what happened. I became more human as an individual, more compassionate, had empathy,
Mhm.
because I used to be the type of individual I'd walk into class on the first day, all my stuff on the table.
Yep.
Say, my name is Spekman, and this is marketing 650. And I'd write my phone numbers, and my handwriting became very, very small, which is another symptom of the illness. And my students would say, you have to write larger. And it just, I hadn't let anybody else know yet. And I said, I'm sorry that I write small, but I'm unable to spell, and you'll never be able to tell the difference. So I used humor. But then I was asked by one of the alumni if I'd speak at an event the alumni were holding. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? You talk about anything you want to. And that's when I let people know what I had.
Hmm.
And hence that I don't introduce myself as RobertESpekman. I've got Parkinson's disease. I For a while, I was the only one at the garden school who wasn't aware I had Parkinson,
Mm.
because everybody else could tell by looking at me. I had surgery. This is the wire. My neural stimulator is right here. There's a wire that goes behind my ear up into my head. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got lumps in my head.
Yeah.
And it rests in the hypothalamus.
Mm.
And the electrical pulses at 160 times a second,
Mm. You,
which makes me think I'm producing dopamine, which I'm not,
uh-huh.
which is what the disease is all about. It's a dopamine deficiency.
That's one of the some of the progress they made in being able to do something like that. You say in your book that you hid a lot of things from people, including your self-hatred. Self-hatred about what?
I About not being able. I became worried that I would not be able to make enough money,
Mm.
so I'd be able to leave my family with enough funds for college and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was Reno, who was in the cabinet of Bill Clinton, who had Parkinson's.
You're talking about Janet Reno.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she wrote about it,
Mm.
and everything that she wrote about scared the hell out of me,
Sure.
because I I was trying to be wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
Those animals that bob up and down for water.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I visioned of myself being stuck in a wheelchair, just bobbing up and down.
Mm,
And that frightened the hell out of me. So it was the self-hatred that I needed counseling for, which helped me begin to realize that what I was frightened of was uncertainty
right.
because I had all my animals lined up in a straight line and
Mhm.
everybody, I have a high need for control and I had no control over this illness,
Yeah.
so that was mainly what happened.
Well, what inspired you to write the book?
Um, it was a way of my speaking. It was a way of my communicating with myself
Mhm.
because I wasn't letting anybody else know I had the disease.
Yeah.
And this was the only way I was able to have a dialogue.
Mhm.
And since I am an academic, I'm at an institution which was publish and perish.
Yes.
You know, writing was something that I,
Well, you wrote it very well. What words of wisdom then would you have for anyone facing a diagnosis like that, whether it's Parkinson's or cancer or any disease?
yeah, I'd say you've got to be able to talk to the narrative. You've got to manage your story in such a way that you don't let the disease get you down.
Mhm.
Now it's not that I don't have moments,
Of course.
but I life ain't bad. I I'm active. I do acupuncture, massages, martial arts.
Mm,
I It's hard hitting everything in
sure.
over the course of a week because I'm dependent on other people to get me around,
Yeah, sure.
and I hate that.
Yeah, yeah. Especially somebody who's been in control and who's somebody who's been so obviously independent for so long, but you've got
Yeah,
the love of a family and you've got friends
that's right.
and with this book, we hope that well, it's so good that when something happens to you that you're able to help others as a result of what's happened to you. And that's in the book, My Journey with Parkinson's Disease, a story of hope and personal transformation. It's available on Amazon. Robert, thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
You have a good rest of the day, okay?
Okay, you too.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Oh, and folks, thanks for spending a few minutes with us on the Global Book Network. I'm Paul Ryden. We'll see you next time.